Since we last left our Mercedes build, we realized that we have one of the rarest engines in the world. Of course we do. Why can't we make this even more complicated? Here we go. Alright, so we are going to assemble this engine one last time. So my 5.3 stamped block with a 5.7 bore is now an official LS1 in a Mercedes. A lot of stuff happened, and I'm not going to recap because I really don't want to. You'll have to look at the beginning of the series to catch all the drama. But since we last left it, I hunted down some pistons and some new head gaskets. Okay, so now it's time to pop the piston in. Make sure that your bore is clean, your crank is clean, and your piston and rod are clean. Start by checking your piston ring end gap, and that's done by assembling the rings on a particular piston and using that to square up the rings that you're going to put in your new bore. Now we need to open the gap up on this one a little bit, so we've assembled the bottom rings and put the top ring in. The middle gap is proper. Basically, a rule of thumb is you want 4 thou per every inch of bore, so we want roughly 15 thou. We're opening that up to about 25. So to open up the ring gap, I just stick a file in the vise and just file down one side at a time, making sure that it stays square to the other end of the ring. Make sure that the ring is square in the bore by bottoming out the second ring in your piston and using the piston to push down on the ring. Check your gap, file it down, assemble your top ring. Generally, I soak the piston in a little pail of oil to get all the oil behind the rings. Use my piston ring compressor, compress the rings. Keep a real close eye on those oil rings because they like to pop out. You really have to make sure that that piston ring compressor is square to the deck, and when you get close, just give it a significant tap with a clean rubber hammer handle. Works good for me. You can use a dowel, like a wooden dowel, or the end of a sledgehammer handle. Use that plenty before too. Just make sure nothing ends up in the bore. I don't put my rod bearings in until I turn the engine over in case I tap it and the bearings fall out. I use white lithium grease to lube up the rod bearings, tighten them down, and then torque them down to 15 foot-pounds, both sides, bringing the cap down even, and using your Torco-Rado meter to add another 60 degrees for Gen 3 rods. Gen 4s with the I-beam rods take a 70-degree torque. And you got your piston in. Do it one at a time, make sure that they're all torqued, and you are good to go. Okay, assembling your timing chain and gear is pretty straightforward. Line up your marks so they're pointing at each other. Now the oil pump, you want to put the oil pump on and just snug up the bolts holding it on to here, but because it's on center, you want to rotate the engine a couple times, and that will center the oil pump on your drive. Now tightening the front cover is the same way. You can see how much this front cover is actually able to move. So you need the front pulley to center the plate, then torque these down to 18 foot-pounds. And just warm up the front pulley with a little blowtorch, not too hot to melt the seal, but enough to expand it so it slides down easy enough to get your bolt on. All right, got the water pump on. Power steering pump back on again. I know these holes aren't covered, but these are just some spare heads with the valves in them. So the valves are closed, so you can't actually get any crap in here. And then the proper heads are on the bench. So we're just about ready to lift it in. I gotta put the flywheel on, tighten the rear cover. And thank you for letting me know about that shuttle valve, or the valve at the back here. It's not a frost plug. So thank you for that. You guys are awesome. I got the sensors in, got my mounts back on, I got all the modifications done to make my exhaust fit. I think we're good to go. So we had our transmission upgraded with a heavy-duty reaction shell kit, a heavy-duty 3/4 clutch kit installed, better bushings, better shift valves, better hold servos. a better Corvette ratio servo, and the input drum has been reinforced. Will it hold up? Well, we'll have to stick around and find out. Okay, so I kind of got into my job and forgot to pay attention to the GoPro, and the battery died. So I'm not exactly even sure when that battery died, but we do have an engine in the car. Now I know you guys all want to hear it run, so let's go start it. Oh, sorry guys, it's 7 o'clock. I'm gonna call her a night. Guess you have to stick around for next week to see what happens.